Welcome to the Value of Recruitment podcast with me, Jon Brooks. Sponsored by Atlas, the recruitment platform helping you become an AI-powered recruiter. This week, my guest is Meqa Smith, founder of the Unforgettable Agency. After years of working in corporate HR, Meqa created her own recruitment methodology that completely changes how her clients approach hiring. In the podcast, we talk about how Meqa stands out from other recruiters by challenging her clients' mindsets around employment. Meqa shares how she continually innovates her offering, taking inspiration from everywhere from prehistoric psychology to war journalism. We also talk about how to turn recruitment from being a grudge purchase to an asset that clients want to invest in. Meqa is a revolutionary in the world of recruitment, and there is so much we can learn from how she sees the industry. Enjoy the show. I hope you find it valuable. Meqa, thank you for joining us.
Hi, Jon. It's nice to see you. It's my pleasure, and thank you for having me.
No, it's great to have you here. Now, you founded the Unforgettable Agency, so I'm really interested to get into what makes you unforgettable.
Oh, I can't wait to share.
Good stuff. Now, let's kick off with the big question. How valuable is recruitment in your eyes?
Oh, to a client, you mean? To a business?
Yeah.
Well, obviously I'm biased, but I do happen to feel like it is one of the most critical functions in any business. Because really, if you think about it, without the right team, it doesn't really matter how good your idea is or how great your IP is. You're not going to be able to turn it into anything. You're not going to be able to take it from vision to reality. So the difference between, your levels of performance, I guess, I feel like, is directly attributable to the quality of your recruitment processes and indeed your talent acquisition strategy.
Yeah, and you've talked about in your LinkedIn posts and in the approach you take, you've talked about hiring being a superpower for the hiring companies you work with.
Yes. Well, I feel like the way that you go to market to recruit can become your competitive edge. Purely because if you think about it, in any given industry, you've got competitors who are pretty much doing a similar thing to you, maybe just with slight tweaks here and there. And most organizations are offering more or less the same kind of job when you think about it. So if you are not prioritizing talent retention, talent acquisition, talent engagement at your organization, and really doing that in a meaningful way to the talent, not to you in terms of what you think best practices are or what's easy and efficient for you, then all you're going to do is to be able to attract the people who either can't get a job at your competitor or who are just kind of pissed off at their job at their competitor and they're just kind of looking for a change. But the people who are really, really good at what they do, who would be able to come in and truly move the needle, they are people with options. They can do things for themselves. They can usually get a job just about anywhere that they want to get a job. So if you're not showing up in the market as an organization that looks like the kind of place they want to get a job, then they're just not even going to look at you and you'll just never, ever be able to get close to them. So you're going to end up with a super average team. And that's going to bring down your ability as an organization to perform, not only in quality, but also speed.
Yeah, and there's a phrase that came out of, I think, the tech industry a few years ago was the idea of a 10x individual. So you get a superstar. The reason for the 10x is they bring 10 times the value or 10 times the ability to achieve things, which, yeah, if you're a company going somewhere, those are the people you need.
Well, the tricky thing with that as well is, I don't know if you've read it. I think it's a book called Stars. The actual sort of theory around these people, these stars coming in is a little bit debunked because yes, you as an individual may have great potential, but you are only able to operate at that full potential if the team around you and the systems and the culture actually supports that. So what we quite often find is that when people go to market to hire, they have in mind that they want to get somebody from XYZ organization, perhaps, or maybe they come across somebody who's applied for their job and they come from, let's say, Google, because it's just one that everybody knows. And they think, oh my God, this person's been at Google, and you look at the list of this person's achievements and you're like, your mind is just blowing and you can't wait to get them in and you're fantasizing about what they could do for you. But the truth is that person was within the Google ecosystem, enabled by the Google infrastructure and the Google culture and the other people around them that are at that same level. That person can't single-handedly come into your business without that level of resourcing and support, without that culture, without that brand infrastructure around them, and critically, without being emotionally involved in wanting to work for you and deliver anything at all. It's almost like getting somebody and tying their hands behind their back and sitting them at a desk and saying, and go.
Yeah, and I think we've probably seen that. Most people listening to this have probably seen that, where, let's say, a scrappy startup says, "Oh, we want someone from a big corporate," and perhaps a big corporate person comes in and sits there and thinks, "What do I do? Where are the systems? Where are the people to help me?" And that's why we talk so much about fit, right? It's not just there is a superstar and you need to get them. There is a unicorn and you need to get them. Sure. It is the right person in the right situation. And again, that's so much of the value that a recruiter brings, is understanding the situation the person's going into as much as where they're coming from.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, I will talk more about that, I'm sure, because you've got some other good questions that I can't wait to answer.
Cool. So one thing I'm really interested about, how do you stand out? Now, as I said, your agency is called the Unforgettable Agency. You talk a lot about creating unreasonable solutions. So clearly you're going for what we say in the UK, you're trying to be a bit Marmite. People love you or hate you. You're not going for middle of the road here. So definitely. Tell us how you stand out and why you stand out.
Yeah. So when I first started the business, I actually used the word unforgettable because I was inspired by a Maya Angelou quote that says that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget the way you made them feel. So to me, the process of recruitment is actually the first step in engaging somebody. It's the first step in setting your business up for high performance and for a high performance culture. And it's the first peek that people have into actually your brand coming to life. And critically, you will get people to feel a certain way when they're even just reading your job ad. But throughout the entire process that somebody goes through with you as a candidate, they will feel a certain way. And the way that they feel during that recruitment phase absolutely sets the tone for the employment relationship moving forward. So you can successfully hire somebody, but they can be absolutely uninterested in the work and just desperately want a salary, a job, and anything, to just pay the bills. And you can look at that as a successful recruitment process. And that's what most organizations do. They see recruitment as admin. But I saw it completely differently because my background was in corporate HR and I'd done that for about 10 years. And then life and circumstances conspired to lead me to a place where I actually moved countries and I could not get another job. That was actually the catalyst for me to realize something was really wrong with the recruitment process back in the day. But I needed to do something. And as I also had a degree in marketing, I started my second career, I guess, in marketing. And so once I had done that for about 5 years, or maybe a bit longer, actually, maybe it was like 7 years, I got to this place where, because I had been helping clients with marketing strategy and positioning and customer experience, one of my clients was looking to hire a GM, the first GM that they had ever had in the business, and they had 5 locations, and he hated recruiters, didn't want to DIY it, and trusted me. And he asked me if I could help. And I really, really, really didn't want to do it. I didn't want to be a recruiter. I didn't want to bar of recruitment. But as I had been a candidate and I had been a single mom and a freelancer, and I had, from time to time been trying to get a job, I had firsthand experience of what I thought was absolutely broken, which I still do, the traditional recruitment process. And I also had a theory based on some of the things that I had seen that I felt did work really, really well. And a lot of the things that I had learnt pivoting from HR into marketing and learning about consumer behavior, psychology, buyer psychology, building funnels, all of those sorts of things, copywriting, all that. So I thought, well, I'm going to combine my two disciplines and I'm going to solve this problem because I believe that jobs are products, candidates are customers, and recruitment is sales and marketing. And not just in the way that most people believe it is. So we can talk more about that later. But that's when I designed the first version of what I do now. And how I sort of stand out and make myself unforgettable is because I don't actually just do recruitment. I have designed a methodology. I call it inspiring. So it's hyphen, inspiring hiring, but it's hyphenated, inspiring. And I have done that purely because I believe that there's a big picture shift that people need to make. And they need to make that shift either before they meet me, and then when they meet me, they go, thank God, or when we're working together. And that big picture shift is a move from what I call employment thinking, which governs 99% of businesses out there and the way that they approach talent, the way they approach recruitment, employment, everything else, over to what I call enrollment thinking, which is what I believe is required of leaders in organizations today to be able to succeed in attracting, retaining, engaging great people. So that's the big picture macro, philosophy that I bring to the table. And then I also have my own unique methodology, which I've codified, and I've created a one-page version of it, so it's a plan. So when I talk to clients, my conversation that I'm having with them is completely different from a conversation that they would have with a traditional recruiter. And the process that I go through when I work with them is a combination of management consulting, coaching, EVP development, employer branding, collateral creation, recruitment marketing, copywriting, recruitment marketing, asset creation. I do candidate profiling, we do job design, we do team engagement surveys, we do leadership assessments, we do a whole lot of stuff. And then we also actually go to market and manage the role and all the candidate communications, and everything is done completely on brand. It's tech-enabled, but 100% human. And we work with our clients in a true partnership role. We advise on onboarding, on pre-boarding. We sometimes even set up peer mentoring for the people that we place. And then because so much of the work that I do is really focused on that co-pilot role, so it could be a CEO all the way down to a business manager, but a person who comes in to work with the founder of a business or with the owner of a business, I then will also coach that person in this methodology and equip them with the tools and templates and guides that they need to do a good enough DIY version of it for future recruitment that they are now responsible for. So
Nice.
It's not apples and apples. It's, apples and grapes, I guess. So that's, in a nutshell, that's the answer to your question.
So do you see yourself as a recruitment agency, and do your clients see you as a recruitment agency?
That's a great question. So yes and no. So of course, at the crux of it, when people come and are referred to me and want to work with me, they are looking for help and support recruiting. I don't actually think of myself as a recruiter. I think of myself as a teacher. I think of myself as a management consultant, and probably a coach. And then I also do facilitate recruitment. But I feel like the actual process of recruiting is such a small part of what I do that, as I posted on LinkedIn yesterday, I think it was, I'm seriously considering rejigging my pricing structure so that that part of the work is actually bonused in. Because in order for me to do what I do, which is enrolling people into working for you and with you, there is a whole lot of work that needs to be done before that, and also during that as well. But there is so much value that comes out of that for the business and for the business owner.
Yeah, and I really like this this approach you're considering. The psychology of pricing is so powerful that if you say, look, it's not all about the recruitment, it's about the coaching, it's about the teaching, it's about this enrollment. If you stop charging the client for recruitment, for the part of the process that is recruitment, then you're sending a very loud signal saying, look, this is not the valuable bit. I am charging you for the teaching, I'm charging you for the coaching, I'm your co-pilot. That's where the value is, and that's why I've put a price on that. Whereas I think sometimes, we can use a lot of words to talk up our services, but then we say, oh yeah, and I'll charge you a percentage of the placement. So the client says, cool, whatever else you just said, the placement is the valuable bit, because that's what you've put a price on. Whereas you're saying the most valuable bit is actually, it's you, it's what you bring, and they're paying you for that.
And I haven't done that yet. That's next on my list. We've just finished the financial year here in Australia, and we've literally just started a new one. I've been always mindful ever since I started this business, which I only started focusing specifically on the hiring because I was hell bent on becoming the world's female Seth Godin before. But only 2020 in November, I started this one, like fully focusing on this. And it's definitely been an iterative process to try and figure out, the pricing and the deliverables and the value and all of those things. But I've always tried to give as much value as I possibly can. And a big part of that from the beginning was about enabling my clients and equipping my clients with a mindset and a perspective that they could never unlearn or lose. Because it's my firm belief that we, human beings, we are so powerfully impacted by our work, by how we feel about ourselves at work, by the way that we're treated at work, by our ability to be self-expressed and fulfilled at work, that if I can help leaders, managers, CEOs, founders to understand actually how human beings are hardwired, and to understand that what they are truly looking for from people when they talk about, wanting people to be engaged or wanting people to be high performance, what they're truly looking for is intrinsic motivation, and how to actually get that. If I can teach them what they've been taught is not serving them and actually how to see things differently in a way that they can't unsee, then I've equipped them with value that they will continue to be able to use for their own benefit, but also for other people that work for them's benefit for the rest of their business life. So I've always tried to do that. And then over the years, I've layered on, more tools, collateral, guides, all of those sorts of things, as well as residual value.
Yeah. That, you talk about a big shift in mindset. And one thing you said earlier, you said, the job is the product, the candidate is the customer. Mm-hmm. Now, I think a lot of recruiters just default to what they are taught, that the candidate is the product. That is what we are selling to our customer, the client. Yes. So did you have that mindset before, and how do you get that shift either personally or through your clients?
So that's always been my ethos. And the way that I've sort of seen it for myself is through the lens of somebody who was looking at various different opportunities over a long period of time, being self-employed as a freelancer. And because I was a single mum, I was a freelancer and I was looking, working by myself, working from home way before the pandemic. There were definitely periods in my life where I just so badly wanted to be part of a team. I just wanted to be able to be around other people, be part of something. And so over the years, not only was I doing research into, the fundamentals of, say, recruitment or marketing or the various aspects of what I was working on at the time, but I was also going through the psychological experience myself of what would happen when I was looking for jobs and how I would feel during the process. And what, I was kind of studying myself. What were the things that were making me feel that way? And then I would kind of compare that to the theory and join the dots and kind of go, oh, okay, I see what's happening here, and I see why that's happening. So the way that I see it is that if you're a candidate and you're looking for a job, right? And I do know for sure that all candidates are not created equal, and we've got so many nuances there, like obviously levels of skill and experience and motivation and ability. You've got different types of jobs, you've got different career stages. So I'm not by any means trying to lump everybody together, but just for the purposes of the conversation. If you have any options, right? If you are somebody with any options, you're critically evaluating everything that is available to you through your own set of filters. And you're going to have your own set of criteria that you're looking for a job. And you're going to have your own personal goals and desires. And so all of those things are a very complicated filter that you're going to go and look at opportunities through, like, a set of lenses. So when you go on a jobs board and you're looking at ads, right, that's usually all that you get, unless a recruiter reaches out to you, and then they'll probably send you an ad or give you a spec or something like that. But let's just use jobs boards as an example. When you're an organization, you are essentially putting that job ad out there in the same way that if you're a single person looking for a relationship, you've got a profile on, say, Tinder. You're putting yourself out there saying, this is who I am, this is what I'm offering, this is what I'm looking for, right? And other people are looking at that and making a pretty snap judgment as to whether or not that's something that matches with what they're looking for. So you have to think about that job as a product, because essentially the candidate is shopping for jobs. So they're looking through their opportunities, their options, and they're picking which one do I want to, explore further, which one interests me and excites me and lights me up, or which one makes me think, I could do that because I have to pay the mortgage, but man, I feel like I need 2 glasses of wine just to get the courage up to hit apply now, because I know it's not going to be good. So that's why I say that. And because when people take a job, it's such a massive part of their life that they are considering all sorts of complicated things. And to me, this is my marketing background coming into it. We as a species, we are actually hardwired the same way now that we were when we lived in tribes. And just in a super nutshell, what that looks like is that we are actually hardwired to belong to a group of people, 35 to 50 people, where every person in that tribe has a key role in the survival of the whole tribe. So we all know that we're hardwired to contribute to the tribe so that we all can survive, right? And we're also hardwired that rejection from that tribe equals death. So we are constantly seeking to make a contribution to the tribe, to make sure that we have a valuable role in the tribe. We do not want to be rejected. But the world was set up for that. Fast forward to today, and we're still hardwired exactly the same way, but the world that we live in is designed to actually make people feel unnecessary and not enough. And everywhere that you look, you see disconnection. People are no longer living in the same suburb that they used to live in their whole life with knowing their neighbors and everything. It's just not like that anymore. People used to get a job and then you'd have a job for 10, 20, 30 years. That is not the case anymore at all. We've lost so much of the fabric of what we used to have as in our communities. We've got big box stores now. We don't have the local butcher, baker, librarian. So in the process of the last few decades, we've eroded a lot of the opportunities that people had to feel valuable, to have a place in their community. And so what you see now is people are desperately searching and seeking ways all the time to make themselves feel valuable and purposeful and desirable and enough. And a lot of this is happening completely unconsciously, right? But you see it happens differently for different people in different ways. Some people chase status, some people chase wealth, some people chase power, some people chase beauty, fashion, stuff, things, whatever, so many things, accomplishments, education, whatever, you name it. But what we do is we go through our lives, and because it's such a deep psychological need for us to be seen, to be recognized, to be valued, to be appreciated, to be valuable to this tribe, to be connected, we want so badly to express our individuality and who we are. We want people to see us and know us and want to be around us. So we use the choices that we make as a kind of a shorthand to express who we are to the world around us. And I mean everything. Like if you wear this brand of shoes, like say you wear Nikes all the time, or you have an iPhone, or you buy a BMW, or you go to Pret a Manger for your lunch, or you, whatever it might be that you do, all these little things, do you have one of these water bottles, or do you just have like a plastic one? Like all the things that we do, it's like a little, like it's like a painting of who we are. So because work takes up such a massive part of our lives, and people now, ever since COVID especially, have had so much time to sit and think about what the hell was I doing? Like in that job that I hated, going to work 9 to 5 on the train for 2 hours either way, sitting in that cubicle with like these people that I hated, life is too short. I'm not doing that anymore, right? So now we've got this situation where people are looking for ways to do things that they feel are meaningful, or at least in some way, shape, or form that they believe is worth doing. But importantly, they're looking for jobs that make them feel like they can be themselves, or align in some way with things that feel like they allow them to be themselves, and to do things that say something positive about them, and to help them become like one step closer to the version of themselves that they want to be. And this is why I'm always talking about the era of jobs is over, and we've got to realize that we're living in the era of journeys. Because people are looking not for like, oh, here is your role, here is your responsibilities, and here's what you get. You get opportunities for development and training and whatever. What the hell does that even mean? People want to know that they're going to be able to work on X, Y, and Z thing, and that they personally are going to be supported in their, goals. People want to know who the hell the boss is that we're actually going to work for, and who is that person, and what do they believe, and they want to know what the organization truly stands for. Not just like that it's Pride Month this month, and then, Black Lives Matter month next month, and then Recycle Month week after. Like it's just, that is absolute BS. So that is, that's why I believe that, because when you actually can show people, and this is what I will often say to HR conferences or people who are recruiting, is what does working for you say about me? If I go to a barbecue and someone says, where do you work? If I say that and they have heard of your organization, what does that say about me? Or what do I feel like I can say about the place that I work that reflects positively on me? That's what people have to be thinking about.
That's such a powerful concept. I love that. And it allows, the hiring organization to say, well, are we Nikes? Are people going to be part of a big tribe? Are we, Nike, very popular, but they're quite mainstream. Or are we really niche? Like, are we some little brand that people are proud not to have heard of?
Yes.
Are you the outlier? That's your tribe,
100%.
is the fact that you're working with someone and wearing things that people haven't heard of and go, oh, that's interesting. Tell me more. There's so much to unpack in that. Everyone is talking about AI-powered recruiters, but what does that actually look like? With Atlas as your CRM, it means every interaction with your candidate is automatically captured and searchable. If they mention their salary in an email, it's instantly recorded without you having to write anything. And behind the scenes, Atlas discovers every company that a candidate has worked for, the industries those companies operate in, as well as things like company size and description. All this means you can do your job much faster and add more value to your clients. To learn more about Atlas, go to recruitwithatlas.com. The rejection is really interesting. So this tribes concept is huge. Yep. As you say, we're hardwired from a time where we wanted to be, when we were part of a tribe, and if we weren't part of a tribe, we died. We didn't have the support to even get to age 20 or whatever cave people lived to back then. But so rejection was literally life or death.
Mm-hmm.
Now you look at the hiring process, rejection is 95% of the experience. It's
Mm-hmm.
the experience you had, it's the experience of most of our candidates, customers, as you call them.
Yep.
Is they're getting rejection after rejection after rejection.
Yep.
And if we take that step further, we're talking to and about recruitment consultants, we get rejection all the time. Or even worse, we start working a job and then we get rejected because the client says, "Oh, I'm gonna ignore you now. I've got 2 other agencies, so I'm ghosting you," or whatever phrase you want to use. So psychologically, there's so much wrong with the approaches we take. So I'm completely in agreement with you. Things need to change, psychologically as much as anything else.
Well, I will say I have had somebody once actually tag me on LinkedIn, one of the candidates that I actually hadn't spoken to but had rejected. And he actually tagged me on LinkedIn saying that he had just had the best rejection experience of his life and that he couldn't believe that he was posting on LinkedIn about how good it was to be rejected for this job. And critically, when I design my process, it absolutely hinges on a very personalized level of communication. Not to say that I don't use tech and I don't use automations, but I do use them very cleverly. And I am very empathetic when I put together anything that doesn't directly have me, crafting a message for the individual. However, it's just an unfortunate fact. I wish it wasn't the case, but we just can't personally take the time to make individual messages for every single person because unfortunately nobody wants to pay us to do that. And so we have to be a little bit smart about it. But the way that you get people is absolutely critical.
Taking the tribe concept and also the psychology of sales, if we go back to retail, there are different ways you can be rejected in a retail setting. If you're trying to get a pair of trainers, as we talked about that earlier, that are in high demand, actually that's exciting to try and get those trainers, much like you might be excited to apply for to a company that you've heard good things about. Now, the trainer store can slam the door in your face and say, "Done, you're out, go away, we're closed now." Or they can say, "Oh, you just missed out. Sign up to be first in line next time." There are so many different ways of doing that. So actually, bringing it back to the kind of tribe psychology, you can be rejected but still feel part of the tribe,
about yourself.
Or you can feel rejected and pushed away. So I love this thinking about what are we hardwired to be and how can we tap into that?
Well, sorry, go, you ask.
No, go on.
I was just going to say, I firmly believe that one of the reasons why recruitment is such a powerful tool is that most businesses see it as a cost. Most businesses see it as administrative, kind of grudge work or grudge purchase. And when you see it that way, you approach it that way, and you use the employment mindset, it pretty much is that. There's no other way for it to be. But I feel like it's an asset. I feel like it's an investment. And I feel like if you approach it correctly, you're actually getting your recruitment campaigns to be part of your brand building. And I don't mean employer brand building. I mean your brand building. Because these days you can't really distinguish between customers, suppliers, candidates. You don't know who's seeing that ad. It's a mix of people. You don't know who's experiencing your recruitment process. It could be your best customer's niece. It could be, your dream customer's sister. It could be your dream customer's wife. You just don't know who it is. And the way that you represent yourself in the market, if it's pretty much the same as everybody else, nobody's going to notice, nobody's going to remember. It's not going to tell anybody anything about you except for you're probably the same as every other business that they've worked for. But if you're doing things in a completely different way, in a way that, like I say, it breaks the script, in a way that you are being unreasonable, like you are not doing what reasonable people would do. You're doing something that takes more effort. It stands out like a sore thumb. And that's when you get people's attention. That's when you get people sharing your job with other people in their network that they think will be perfect for it. That's when you get people ringing you up saying, you have literally just described me. It's like you were in my head. I had to call my husband and read it out. This is my job. I can't believe it. It's amazing. Like, that's when I never have people ghost me. I've literally never, not in 4 years ever, had anybody ghost me. Not once. Because the way that we hire, there's just no way that somebody's going to get to a certain point with that and just disappear off the radar, because they're so invested. They're so bought in.
And that's a great lesson we can learn for people running recruitment agencies and running their own desks is, everyone says, how can we stand out? Recruitment is a crowded market. You have to invest. You have to commit. Whether it's a hiring company creating a job advert that stands out from the other million job adverts that are out there, or a recruitment agency saying, how do I stand out? You can't do it by saying, oh, it's a bit of admin.
Yeah.
What button do I press to stand out?
Exactly.
You've got to find something and go for it. And that leads nicely onto a question I've wanted to ask you. You've changed a lot. You've innovated a lot. You're obviously thinking differently. How do you approach that? How do you go about innovating?
So I have always been an absolutely voracious student of everything, pretty much. So I'm always listening to podcasts. I'm always reading books. I'm always looking at parallel industries. Years ago, when I actually first started Unforgettable in 2015, it was a marketing strategy and positioning and customer experience sort of consultancy. And I was obsessed with customer experience books. And I remember reading, I think it was called The Magic Kingdom. It's about the Disney customer experience. And they obviously are world renowned for what they teach and what they do. And their ethos was, your competition is not like, our competition is like Disneyland. It's not other theme parks. It's every single other experience that your customer has ever had, because that sets the bar for what they know is possible. So I have always tried to think about, how can I make this piece of the puzzle easier? What tool can I get? What tech can I get? How can I humanize this? How can I change that? How can I increase the value of that? I'm just always looking for ways to do that, because the last thing I ever want to do is be a commodity. The last thing I ever want to do is be the same as other people doing a similar thing. I feel like the middle is just the worst place that you could possibly be. You want to go to the extremes on something, somewhere, somehow, because otherwise all you're really doing is just a race to the bottom on price, because people just don't know how to compare you to anyone else without doing it on price. So I make time. I invest heavily in education, coaching, learning. By heavily, I do mean like sometimes up to 20% of like gross turnover. Like I genuinely put my money where my mouth is.
Yeah, I love that. Are there, just thinking of the books, are there really standout books that you could recommend to other recruitment leaders?
That is so hard. I wish I could. I don't really have like a top 3 sort of list. I would say that I do a lot of reading outside of my own discipline, and I will follow obscure trails. Like, for example, one of my favorite books, or here's a recommendation. One of my favorite books is called Tribe: On Homecoming and Belonging by Sebastian Junger, who is a war journalist. And that book is actually about returned servicemen and why they don't want to stay at home and they do want to go back to war. And that was a pivotal book for me, because he talks in there. That's the book where he talks about this tribe that we used to belong to. And he talks about, the modern society has perfected the art of making people feel unnecessary. And he talks about how lower socioeconomic communities are more connected and wealthy people have a higher incidence of suicide and all the different, it's just such a brilliant book, and it takes you out of your little myopia of, recruitment. So yeah, I highly recommend that.
Nice. And I love, you said you spread the net far and wide in terms of where you learn and where you get your ideas. I doubt many recruitment leaders have thought, yeah, I'm going to read about war and learn from that. But that's really powerful. I mean, at a much narrower scale, like I love bringing pricing models in from other industries. Recruitment is a huge industry in some respect, but also it's a lot of people doing quite similar things. So there's so much we can learn by looking at other industries. I mean, absolutely, Disney are the kings and queens of experience, and experience is so much of what we do. But that's the case for every single part of the recruitment process, and for how we pitch, how we present ourselves to our clients. It's been so fascinating. Thank you for sharing what's been an incredibly deep thought on recruitment and hiring. My final question, and I think I could guess the answer to this, but when it comes to negotiation, a lot of recruiters are put under huge pressure for negotiation. Now, one reason for that, I think, is because they are stuck in the middle. As you say, they don't stand out. They are commoditized. They are replaceable. So a client says, well, if you're the same as anyone else, I don't really want to pay you if I don't have to. You stand out. I think we're clear on that. How do you experience negotiation with your clients?
Well, I don't do it. I guess that's going to probably sound funny, but I don't negotiate with people. And the reason for that is there is only one of me. There is literally nobody else in the entire world who does what I do. They don't even do something similar to what I do. It is literally me or traditional recruiters. So I have now gotten to the stage where I actually, in my first conversation with clients, after they've spoken to me for the first time and sort of, I've sent them my brochure and we've talked about my philosophy and the process and the methodology, and they're like on board. We do a strategy session that's paid. And I will go through a whole bunch of questions with them, and we'll do some role scoping stuff, and I'll do some assessments with them, and we'll talk about what I think. Because oftentimes people are like, oh, I want to hire this role title, this salary. And after we've had a long conversation, it's like, no, like this is completely not correct. Like for all these reasons that you've just told me, this is actually 2 roles, or, it's actually 1 role plus a contractor for 3 months, or, whatever the case may be. And oftentimes the salary's a bit off, or the things that they think the person is going to be responsible for are wrong. So I give them that, and then I give them also some options. So what I will do is I will say, look, based on what you've told me, I actually think that you could work with me. And if you did, this is what the project would probably look like and what it would probably include. And here's a ballpark on the costs. But if you actually wanted to just use a traditional recruiter, then there's 2 other people that I can recommend for you. This guy operates like this, and this is his fee structure, and this is what you'll get. And this other agency, they operate like that, and this is what you'll get, and this is how much you'll pay. So I'll leave it with you, and you can decide who you'd like to work with. And then they come back to me, and it's either, yes, I do want to work with you, and then we scope out the specifics of the project and we agree on the price, and I tell them what the terms and conditions are and what the price is, or they don't want to and they want to go work with somebody else, and that's great. That's fine. But I don't negotiate.
Excellent. I think it's the right way to do it. But I think you earn that right to not negotiate by getting their trust and by standing out and not being commoditized in the middle. I also love that. Sorry, go on.
Okay.
I call that the super walk away, supercharged walk away. So you could walk away from a client who's perhaps negotiating hard with you, but the supercharged walk away is to say, look, I am who I am, and this is what I cost. Here's someone else who does something differently. Here's someone else who does something differently again.
Yep.
That projects so much confidence that you are right when you're right for that client. that if the client can see they want to work with you, they say, okay, I want to work with Meqa because she knows who she is, and she knows that she isn't those people. And more often than not, you win that, although it's scary to start talking about competition or alternatives.
And also I think there's a maturity that comes from realizing that you're not for everybody, and there's a responsibility. I actually think it's something Seth Godin says, and I can't remember this exactly, I'm going to misquote him, but he talks about the fact that marketing is a generous act, selling is a generous act, because you are creating transformation for people. But if you are not regularly referring your competition, then you are not serving your customers well enough, because you are not right for everybody, and you shouldn't try and sell yourself to everybody. And I take that very seriously, because I have in the past taken on people who weren't quite a fit, and I'm so confident that I can help anybody. But the truth is that you really can't. People have to see what you do and think it's a good fit for what they need, and you have to partner with them. If you're in a position where somebody is, going along for the ride, or, they think they're going to get something that's not quite what you actually deliver, or there's any kind of lack of alignment, you're just not going to get a good result. They're going to be unhappy. They'll fight about paying you. You'll waste your time. You'll have to do the same work 3 times, whatever it is. And, that powerful walkaway that you said, I actually literally just today sent an email to somebody that I've been speaking with about a project that the fee is just over $50,000. And he has the contract and the invoice for the deposit and the project plan and all the rest of it. And he had verbally committed to wanting to go ahead, and it's all retained. And I sat and thought about the way that the communication between us had gone for the last 2 weeks. And I thought, you know what, this isn't going to work. Like, I need to call this. I need to withdraw the offer to work with this client, because he's not in the right place to do this project. He's got too much on. He's not going to be able to commit to it. I'm not going to be able to deliver to the standard that I know that I want to deliver at. And it's going to be better for him if he goes and works with somebody more traditional, who's going to be able to do a lot more of the nuts and bolts work that he needs done right now. So I left, I've sent that email to him. I have, offered to make the introduction. And, that's not an easy decision to make. I'm not a high volume recruiter. I don't work with a whole lot of clients all the time. But that is how seriously I do take making sure that it is the right fit. It's my responsibility as a professional. And it's my responsibility to myself. And Blair Enns, who wrote Win Without Pitching, he actually has like a community for advertising and creative business owners. He said once on a podcast, and something that stuck with me, that every client that you take on either takes you one step closer to or one step further away from the business that you want to build. And that's really important to me, to make sure that I walk that talk.
Yeah, I think that's huge. And words are cheap, but if you've got $50,000 on the table and you make a clear decision to walk away from something, then it's absolutely deeds, not words. I think that, for me, to sum that up, it feels like you're coming across as a high-level expert consultant.
Yeah.
And a lot of recruitment leaders want to do that. They want to be seen as consultative. And the danger is you try and take on the wrong clients. It puts you in a transactional space. So that Blair Enns quote, you're taking you further away from that consultative future. You're stepping back into transactional, not forward into consultative recruitment. 100%. I love it. You've shared so much value today. It's been fascinating. You have an amazing way of thinking about business and hiring and the business of recruiting. So thank you so much, Meqa. And it's been a pleasure.
Yes, it's been great to chat. Always fun, Jon. Thank you.
Thanks again to Meqa for sharing her revolutionary approach to hiring. 3 things stood out for me. First, her view that jobs are products and candidates are customers. Too often we treat candidates as the product, which diminishes our role in the recruitment process and also degrades the candidate experience. Second, Meqa's supercharged walkaway strategy of telling potential clients which other recruiters they should consider working with. This projects huge confidence in what she does and helps her win clients who value her approach. And third, her point that candidates are trying to answer the question, what does working for you say about me? If we can tap into hardwired psychological needs of clients and candidates, then we can offer a more valuable service. If you found the show valuable, please leave a review and remember to subscribe or follow the show on your podcast app. You can also get more insights and inspiration by signing up to my added value emails on Substack. You can find the link in the show notes. Now, go create some value. Thank you to Atlas for sponsoring the Value of Recruitment podcast. To learn more about how Atlas is creating an AI platform that helps recruitment agencies generate more placements with less effort, visit recruitwithatlas.com.